What if I told you that Ferrari has found a way to generate more downforce without paying the price in speed, and that no team can copy it this season? Because what Ferrari has done in the rear of the SF-26 is not a simple improvement. It is a move calculated from the beginning of the design that is leaving the rest of the paddock completely confused. How is it possible that a small change is causing such an impact? And why are some engineers already talking about a structural advantage that is impossible to replicate in months? Stay until the end, because what's behind this innovation not only explains Ferrari's leap, it could define who will dominate this new era of Formula One. Formula One has always been a war of details, but what Ferrari has done with the SF-26 is not typical. Because we are not talking about an improvement visible to the naked eye, but rather a complete reinterpretation of how the rear of a car should work under the new regulations. And it all starts with a decision that went unnoticed for months, but is now shaking the entire paddock. While most teams focus their efforts on optimizing already known concepts, Ferrari decided to go down a much riskier path, building the entire car around an idea that would only make sense if it worked perfectly from the first moment. There was no margin for error. It was a total gamble. And that bet was focused on something very specific: turning the rear area into the true heart of aerodynamic performance. This is where the concept that changes everything comes into play. Ferrari understood that the 2026 regulation not only limited, it also opened doors. But only for those who knew how to interpret it best. And instead of seeing restrictions, they saw opportunities in areas that the rest simply ignored. The key was detecting that the airflow at the rear, combined with the exhaust gases, could be manipulated in a much more aggressive way than initially thought. From there, the development of the SF-26 took a completely different direction. It was not just about adding an innovative piece, but about redesigning the architecture of the car so that everything revolved around that concept. This involved critical decisions from very early phases of the project, such as modifying the internal arrangement of key components in the rear, something that affects absolutely everything, from the gearbox to the suspension. And while Ferrari worked in silence, the rest of the paddock continued to evolve their cars under a more conservative logic. Nobody expected that a car with such a different and, above all, so integrated solution would appear in the tests. Because when the SF-26 finally hit the track, it wasn't just an aesthetic surprise, it was a technical statement that forced everyone to rethink what they thought they understood about the regulations. The most impressive thing is not only the innovation itself, but the moment in which it arrives. Ferrari is not reacting, it is setting the pace from the beginning of this new era. And that completely changes the competitive landscape because it forces the other teams to make a difficult decision: follow their own path, or try to achieve something that, at this point, seems designed not to be easily achieved. This is the true starting point of the entire story. It is not just an update, it is not just an improvement, it is the beginning of a possible structural advantage that can condition the entire season. And most disturbing for its rivals is that we are only beginning to understand the true scope of what Ferrari has built. Because it is one thing to have an innovative idea, and quite another for that idea to work in all conditions, in each corner, in each acceleration phase. And this is where the SF-26 starts to really scare you. Ferrari hasn't just created a flashy concept. It has built a system that works constantly, regardless of the type of circuit or the situation of the car. The critical point is how they have made the rear of the car much more efficient than normal. Thanks to this management of the airflow together with the exhaust gases, the car does not depend solely on speed to generate downforce. This breaks one of the great traditional limits of Formula One: the loss of performance in slow and medium corners. Now Ferrari has a tool that continues to work even when the car is not in ideal flow conditions. This translates into something key: consistency. While other teams struggle to maintain the balance of the car in different phases of the circuit, Ferrari is able to maintain a much more stable aerodynamic base. And in Formula One, that stability is everything. It means being able to attack corners more, taking better care of the tires, and, above all, having a predictable car for the driver. But there is a second level that is even more important. This rear concept not only improves loading, it also optimizes efficiency. That is to say, Ferrari can generate more grip without needing to increase drag so much. And here is the real leap: a car that has more load in the curve but that does not lose speed on the straight. That balance is the holy grail of aerodynamics, and Ferrari seems to have found a way to get dangerously close to it. Now, all this has a direct consequence on the rest of the paddock. Because while Ferrari extracts performance from an integrated concept thought out from the beginning, the other teams are trapped in their own design decisions. They can't just copy the idea because it doesn't fit the architecture of their current cars. Trying to do so would mean sacrificing months of development, and in such a tight season that is practically impossible. And this is where the real pressure begins. Rival engineers aren't just surprised, they're worried, because they understand that they are not facing a specific improvement, but rather a completely different direction of development. One that Ferrari has already traveled, and that they are just beginning to understand. So Act 2 leaves us with a disturbing conclusion. Ferrari has not only innovated, it has created an advantage that works in the real world on the track where it really matters. And the most dangerous thing of all is that this advantage does not seem to have an immediate answer. And if this is what we're already seeing, what comes next could be even more decisive for the future of the season. And then we reach the most critical point of this whole story, because if Ferrari has already shown that its innovation works, the true impact is measured in what comes next, the consequences. Because in Formula 1 it's not just the one who innovates who wins, the one who forces others to react late wins. And that is exactly what Ferrari has achieved with the SF-26. They have advanced development by months, even years in concept, leaving the rest of the paddock in a position where any response comes at a disadvantage. From this moment on, each team faces an extremely dangerous dilemma. Do they try to copy Ferrari's idea, knowing that this means completely redesigning the rear of the car and sacrificing this season? Or do they continue with their own concept, accepting that they may be losing a key advantage at every turn? There is no easy decision, and in both cases Ferrari wins. Furthermore, this type of innovation has a ripple effect on development. While other teams spend resources understanding and reacting, Ferrari can focus on perfecting its concept. And this is where the difference can become even bigger, because not only do they have the initial advantage, they also have control of where it evolves. And there is something even more worrying for their rivals. This does not seem like a ceiling, but rather a starting point. Everything we have seen so far could just be the basis of a concept with much more potential to exploit. If Ferrari manages to optimize this rear area even further, the gap could widen race after race, circuit after circuit. At this point, we are no longer just talking about a technical innovation. We are talking about a shift in the balance of power. Ferrari has gone from chasing to leading the way. And when a team in Formula 1 achieves that at the beginning of a new regulatory era, the consequences are usually very clear. So the big question that remains in the air is inevitable. Are we seeing the beginning of a new era of Ferrari dominance? Or will the rest of the paddock find a way to respond before it's too late? Because if the SF-26 has made one thing clear, it is that this battle is not going to be decided only on the track, but in the ability to understand and replicate an idea that, for now, seems to be several steps ahead. And in the end, all this leads us to a conclusion that leaves no room for doubt. Ferrari has not only improved its car, it has changed the way of understanding the rear in modern Formula 1. The SF-26 is not an evolution, it is a technical statement. It is proof that when a team interprets the regulations better from the beginning, it can build an advantage that does not depend solely on pure performance, but on something much deeper, the architecture of the car. And that is exactly what is scaring the rest of the paddock. Because while other teams are looking for solutions, Ferrari already has a system working, integrated and optimized from its base. They are not reacting, they are one step ahead. And in a sport where every thousandth counts, that conceptual difference can be much more decisive than any specific improvement that comes later. The most shocking thing is that this innovation does not seem to have an immediate response. It is not something that can be copied in weeks or even months. It requires rethinking everything from scratch. And that leaves Ferrari in a privileged position to set the pace of development for much of the season. So the conclusion is clear. Ferrari has struck first, and it has done so where it hurts most, in an area of the car that defines overall performance. And when that happens at the beginning of a new era, history has shown us that the consequences can be enormous. Now it all depends on one thing: how long it will take for the rest to understand what Ferrari has already mastered. If you want to take this script to another level, the next step is to expand the first block, delving even deeper into the technical basis of the concept, because that is where the key to this advantage is really hidden. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.